do not understand white supremacy, what it is, and how it works, everything else that you do understand will confuse you. In all of these 9 areas of activity, economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. Anywhere on the planet, minute by minute, day by day, all of the time.
Well, good morning and welcome to the October the 1st, 2024 edition of the Counter-Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby, and we thank you for being a part of today's show. If you would like further participation in today's show, here's the number that you can contact us with, 516-453-9921. And if you have a question or comment, just press the number 1 button and wait until you are recognized. And then when you are, give the person on the other end your name so that I can give you the introduction. If you're a first-time caller, you do the same thing except for this. Make sure that you tell the person that you're speaking with that you are a first-time caller, and then we have a special thing set up for you that you will be heard. You can also get in the chat room if you'd like, as a few have already done that. All you have to do is go to blogtalkradio.com, click on Programs, and the program that you want is the Produce Justice Show. You click on that, the icon becomes available for you to join the chat room, and you can do that. Get in the chat room. And occasionally in the chat room, if a subject is good, I will select something or maybe even form my own question and give it to Mr. Fuller, and it can be discussed. The third way is simply just to my email address or Gmail address, which is excuse me, the number 7. Whoa, come on here, Mr. Bobby. Is 7, Mr. Bobby, MRBOBBY @gmail.com. And I will get your Gmail, and then I will read it at a time when the call volume is not as heavy, and give you, of course, she wrote it, and give you credit for it, and have Mr. Fuller answer your question or your comment. Okay. The book that Mr. Fuller will be talking about, or where the subjects come from, is his latest book, is the United Independent Compensatory Code System concept that you can get by going to producejustice.com. All the issues that we were having with the book have been resolved, and the logistics have been all straightened out, so you should not have any problem in receiving the book. And I urge you to get the book. That is at producejustice.com, producejustice.com. There you will find that information, past shows that are on there. I had a couple of people ask me about that this week, and they were delighted that all the shows were on, and they had a chance to hear some things and get familiar with what's going on. Hopefully they will call in today. We can do that. Okay, I think that's it, so let me go on with this. Let me present to some and introduce the others, Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. Mr. Fuller, good morning, and how are you?
Good morning. I'm still learning.
Okay. All right, we have a section that we call the Thoughts and Expressions on the Mind of Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. Mr. Fuller, today being the 1st of October 2024, what would you like to start the program off with, from Thoughts and Expressions on your mind?
Well, what I've been thinking about for some days now, or some weeks, everybody needs to just lower their voices about now and try to get focused just on producing constructive results. Just concentrate on those two words. Every day when you wake up, just say, what can I do that will produce constructive results? And whatever needs to be made the way it ought to be. And most people have all kind of complaints about everything that is going on in every area of activity. That includes people around them and people distant from them, because everything is now getting connected, more and more connected. People have more connections now than they ever have in history. But immediately after people make their connections, it seems like to me, they become disconnected from everything that has to do with producing constructive results. They go out of their way to be connected. Cell phones, all day long, everywhere. People are very well connected, and then they become disconnected, and whatever it is they're saying on the phones, they are dissatisfied with the conversation. And many, it seems to me, that at least, at the very most, there are more arguments than there are conversations. So that needs to stop altogether. People need to become constructively connected, and that everything that they say, every sentence, every paragraph, just make up your mind that I'm not going to have any arguments today with anybody. White, non-white, cousins, grandma, Jemison, whomever. No back and forth like that. And I'm just not going to do it. Now, just make that a part of your code, that you're not going to have any arguments, not only for today, but starting with today, if you have been having them. I'm not talking to anybody and have an argument. I'll just tell them what the code says about when it looks like we're heading toward an argument. Say, well, Florence or Gladys or Henry, I'll talk to you at some other time, because it looks like we're fixing to have an argument. And I don't feel like arguing, and arguments don't usually wind up producing constructive results. So we will talk at some other time. That's actually somewhere, I think, unless I missed putting it in there. Certainly down through the decades, I've been saying it over and over again. You just tell the person, once the argument starts, you just tell the person, oh, look, I'll talk to you at some other time, when both of us are in a mood where we can kind of settle down, see what the problem is, examine it, and then see what we can do to resolve the problem in a way that produces the most constructive result. Aunt Lucy. And all right, and just go from there. And just make that a vow. I mean, codification is about making things simple, straightforward, everybody being honest with everybody else. And try to come up with, like I said, those two words that should be repeated all over the world from now on in every language. Just harp on it. Every teacher would be saying, well, what about producing a constructive result? Is this thing that you're talking about, if we go about doing it the way that it needs to be done? Because there's a way to do everything. And say, will this produce the most constructive result in any area of activity? Economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, for sure, religion, for sure, sex, for sure, war, counter-war, which I call and cited throughout the textbook for victims of racism, and for everybody, really, because basically we're talking about producing something called justice. Now, that's the first thing that I've been thinking about. And then along with it, I might say, right along with it, not even putting it like ducks in a row. It's all about Social Security. And I decided to start using a term that I made up called Universal Social Security Corps. And it's something that you join. Now, how do you join? You join it simply by doing anything that produces a constructive result. And if anybody asks you, well, how are you doing that and all like that, you just say, well, I'm a part of the Corps, and I do everything for the Corps. And I joined the Corps of guaranteeing, to the best of my ability, Social Security, primarily in the form of doing what I can, producing correct health. It's just 4 things there. That includes anything associated with feeding someone. Lots of things connected with health, healing. So that's a part of Social Security, making everybody secure socially when they interact with anybody else. And then number 2 is housing. And you can look at what's going on in North Carolina right now and all like that. And I think everybody wants some Social Security when it comes to housing and health. But that health is first. And that's got to be more and more emphasized. Okay. And then the next would be education in the form of how to build capital, not just tread water. Like people who have built capital are now, a lot of them, are underwater right now. The houses are underwater. The houses were capital. Now they got to rebuild all over again. Now you got to think about, well, now, can I get insurance? Should I build here again? This is a floodplain now, okay? And then, before I even get to that, where can I get a sandwich and some water? Because I need that immediately. Well, that's when I'm saying the repair job, which we talk about reparations. I'm trying to put everything together in the same envelope. We talk about reparations. Reparations for whom? In what form? And everybody who needs repairing. That's for whom. And that's what I've been thinking about. And that's what this whole program, right now, we're talking about a repair job, because everybody needs repairing. Everybody on the planet. So we should think about reparations in that context. Otherwise, we're going to keep having squabbles. And the one thing that everybody should be sick of, and that's any type of squabbling. We should just be so sick of that. We never want to hear anybody say a discouraging word at all from this moment on. And that's what's on my mind.
Okay, that's what's on your mind. Okay. Before we take calls here, you mentioned in your soliloquy there about insurance. I want to know, Mr. Fuller, on your list of movies, your movie list, have you ever seen the movie The Burial, starring Jamie Foxx, Tommy Lee Jones, and Journey Smollett?
No.
Okay. Anybody
Never
out there?
Heard of the movie either.
Yeah.
What's the name of it?
The Burial.
The Burial. Never heard of it.
It's about burial and insurance, but even more than that, how the system, as you indicated in their area, people activity, how things are done, particularly to black folks in the insurance business, particularly burial insurance. There's a whole lot of things that can be gleaned from that movie. I watched it yesterday for the first time. It was produced in 2023, and I had never heard of it, but it's a very good movie and asks some very good questions. So if anybody ever seen that or going to want to look at that, check that out, The Burial. Very good, and see what kind of thoughts that you can glean from that. See, yeah, that's very good. Okay, let me see here, because I had a, here's a question here from the Gmail. Let's see. Anyway, it says, hello, Mr. Fuller. I want to know, in your opinion, Mr. Fuller, is there different types of blacks in view of white supremacy? I'm asking because my deceased grandparents were from the concept of Haiti, and many blacks that identify as Haitians don't think they are black, along with the situation with the Haitians in the concept of Ohio.
Well, you start off by, if that's a problem, and I think it is, you ask questions. All problems, all activities that are successful start off with questions and answers. In fact, not just start off, but all problems are solved through the process of questions and answers. Now, you look at the people and you say, what color are they? According to the racial classifications, according to the code. Now, different people got ideas about what's a racial classification, and that's a real hot subject just about now, again and again and again. Some people say there are 22 classifications. I think that's what the census carries. In the code book, what I have is 3. In 1860, in the Northwestern Hemisphere, and how it was usually looked at within that frame, even all over the world, it was black, white, and mulatto. Those were the 3 racial classifications. Now, what I have in my textbook, I say there are 3 racial classifications: white, non-white, and white supremacists. And everybody who's non-white is just a shade of black. That's the way I see it, because I think that's telling the truth. What they call black, if you want to have that classification, I say there's no such thing as an African American, simply because there's no such thing as an American. Well, I get to that in another conversation, or somebody ask a question about it today. All right? And so that's it. White, non-white, and white supremacists. And you have to be white in order to be eligible, to be considered to be a white supremacist. But nobody should want to be that, because white supremacy is all about mistreatment of people based on color. So people who are called Haitians, what do they want to be called? We're going to start with that. What do they want to be called? So I guess that comes down to each individual. So
okay.
I hope that answers the question.
Well, I don't know. It was a Gmail. Somebody wrote in. Okay. Well, we'll leave it. We'll leave that one there. Let's see here. Swall, I see you, and Blacktop, I see you. One more question, Mr. Fuller. This comes from Mary. She says this, Mr. Fuller, can justice be produced outside of the Declaration of Independence and the Bill of Rights? My concern, Mr. Fuller, is that we are being conditioned to vote color, not Constitution, thus making it harder to produce justice. What do you say, Mr. Fuller?
Both. You vote, you're supposed to be voting for one thing, guaranteeing that nobody is mistreated. Nobody on the planet, ever. Anybody who's being mistreated should not be mistreated. That's number one. Number two, the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help. If there's 10 people in a room, you start with the person that needs the most constructive help. It's a simple formula. And, you don't have to chop it up like talking about who's a Republican and who's a Democrat and who's an independent. All of the above, none of the above. Just say, the Constitution is a tool, just like the codified concept is a tool. But it's all together if it produces what? Constructive results. If a person needs food, get the food, please. Just go get the food. Well, I don't know. What district are you from? Hey, get the food. The person is hungry. When the ambulance arrives, all they want to know is, where is the person who is injured? Now, everybody understands that when it's them who is injured, all right? That ambulance, that's what the people come there. They're trained to do that. Who needs help the most? Simple formula. Confucius said it. Life is simple. Men make it complicated. I wake up in the morning and go to bed at night thinking of just that one thing, because it's such a simple statement, and it's true. And all you got to do is just remember that. Mm-hmm. And you keep it that way. Everybody pulls over and lets the ambulance by. Why? Well, basically, it's for a very logical reason, because they want everybody to pull over. I know I do. And let that ambulance by when I called the ambulance. And I've been in an ambulance. I really appreciate it when people pull over. Even though they're irritated by it, it irritates me when I was driving. Okay? But let that ambulance get to whomever needs help the most.
Oh. Mm-hmm. Okay.
And that's what the code is about. That's what all the, people talk about whether we'll do this on the basis. No, just do it on the basis of we want the most constructive results for everybody. And in one word, it's called justice.
Justice. Okay.
You won't find that in the dictionary that I know about, because I made that up.
Yes.
I say justice means guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help under every circumstance. You don't check to see who the person is or nothing. Give the person the help that is needed. And the person guarantee, that's number 2, that no one is mistreated in the process. You might be trying to help the person that needs help the most, but you don't miss 12 other people in the process.
Correct. Okay.
So that's all you got to remember. All over the world, all day long. And you don't have, and if you do that, you won't have none of this foolishness going on in the so-called Middle East. All of it is a bunch of garbage. The way everybody is treating everybody else. That's pure garbage. And completely unnecessary. Completely unnecessary.
Completely. Okay, let's bring it in. Okay. Right. Mary, thank you. Thank you, Mary, for answering your question. Let's go out to L.A. Swa, long time. Glad you're aboard. Get ready. You are in. Go ahead, Swa.
Good evening, Mr. Bobby Greeley, Mr. Neely for Virginia. Neely for Virginia, my question is, do you have any suggestions for victims of racism who feel miserable and hopeless while subject to the system of white supremacy?
Do I have what?
Any suggestions or advice for victims of racism?
Yes, I've been making it on every program every Tuesday, I think. And I wrote most of it in the book. Those are these suggestions. I just finished making suggestions just now. For everything that goes on, do what the ambulance does. Do what the fire department does. Do what you help people. A lot of people who are just about mad at everybody, when the house is afire and you don't know what to do to put it out, you kind of like hearing that siren, 2 or 3 of them, and people jumping out real quick and hooking up those hoses and knocking down that fire before it reaches the tipping point where the house collapses from the fire. You like that report when the fire chief doesn't make any difference who it is, but the fire chief said, well, we were able to limit the fire to the basement. And there's some smoke damage in the kitchen above the basement, but that is being taken care of right now. We got the blowers working, and they might need a paint job in the kitchen, but the house is solidly built, and we controlled it to the basement, and negligible damage was done, except there's some water damage, and that's covered by insurance. Now, you like to hear that. You like to hear that. You don't know the fire chief's name, and you didn't ask because you're thinking about the house, which is normal, and you would expect that, But that was the report, and you appreciated the people who pulled over even though a couple of them were late for work. And I'm talking about, in answer to your question, that's it. Some people just call it doing the right thing. Spike Lee made a movie. Just look at the situation and say, what's the right thing to do? If there's any such thing as a right thing. What's the right thing to do? Say, well, yeah, but, the weather in Las Vegas, I mean, ain't no sunshine today. Hey, you ain't in Las Vegas. You're in Cleveland, Ohio. And the person over there just fell off the curb. And say, somebody call an ambulance. I think I broke my ankle. Now, in answer to your question, what do? And you got a cell phone. And you know what the number is, 911. Call it. That's all the code is. Countering racism, that's all it is. Do the correct thing in every circumstance.
Mm-hmm. All right. Swah, thank you. Hope that satisfied your questions. Look for you on the chat room, too. Thank you so much, Squaw. I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to break this, and we'll be back after this. You are listening to the Counter Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr. I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby, and we thank you for doing that. Contact number, 516-453-9921. Do that number. Press the number 1 button if you have a question or a brief comment. You can do that. First-time callers, same thing. You do the same thing, except for this. Make sure that the person you contact, tell them that you're a first-time caller, and we have a special program set up just for you that you will be heard. If you don't want to do that, you can join the chat room. All you have to do is go to blogtalkradio.com. You want to click on where it says programs, and under the programs, you want the Produce Justice show. You click on that, and to the right, I believe the icon box is available for you to join the chat room, and you can do that. And lastly, you can Gmail me at the numero 7, Mr. Bobby, MRBOBBY, at gmail.com. I will get it, and periodically, as we get the time, we'll read it and have Mr. Fuller address your concern or your comment. That's the way to do that. Books, yes, ProduceJustice.com is the book, the manual, the guide, the code, everything right there at ProduceJustice.com. Also, past shows, you can get those right there, review them, and listen to them, and I urge you to do that. All righty, I believe that is it on that. Anybody seen the movie The Burial? What are your thoughts on that? You can even get in the chat and talk about that. Or The Burial with Jamie Foxx, Tommy Lee Jones, and Journey Smollett, Jesse Smollett's sister. Very, very good movie. Check it out. All right, New York, Blacktop, you're there. Let's get with it. And there you go. Blacktop, you're on with Mr. Fuller. Blacktop, you're on with Mr. Fuller.
How are you doing today, Mr. Bobby? How are you doing, Mr. Fuller?
Man, you are. I'm good. What is your question for Mr. Fuller?
Okay, so 2 things. One, I wanted to let everybody know the movie that Mr. Fuller mentioned about 2 weeks ago, Dinner with Andre. The full movie is available on YouTube. Just type in My Dinner with Andre, and the movie should come up in your search. And my question is, based on evidence, how do I know that I'm not living in a system of anti-blackness as opposed to a system of white supremacy?
How do you know that you're living in a system of white supremacy?
And not a system of anti-blackness.
the system of white supremacy, if I understand the question, is anti-black, anti-non-white. Anybody who's not white by so-called racial classification is black or a shade of black. There's no shades of white, even though if you're talking about, not when you're talking about people. Now, if you're talking about paint, there are shades of white, like they have something called off-white. Well, the first time I saw that on a paint can, I said, how far off? 10 miles? 2 feet? Well, you know, off-white. It's either white or it ain't. Is this white paint? You know? They say, yeah, but, you know, not quite white, but, you know, no, well, if it ain't quite white, it's what? Logically speaking, it's color. Light yellow, maybe, but white doesn't have any derivatives. White is white. Say, well, some white people look pink. Are they white? That's the question. W-H-I-T-E. Think about it for 40 days. And then come to your conclusion. Now, I'm not talking to you personally. I'm just making an illustration. Everybody, you know, how white is white? So if you really want to answer to that question, you ask the white supremacists, because they are really the people, the most powerful people on earth, and they say, if I say that I'm purple, you say that I'm purple, I ain't going to feed you, black folks. And you say, well, yesterday you said you was, that was yesterday. Shut up and listen. You'll learn something. I'm white. I'm your master. See, that's what white supremacy is all about. It's not just about the color. It's about what goes with it, the color or the non-color. And the white supremacist says, if you're not white, you're nothing. You're a throwaway. You're a person that shouldn't even be breathing without my permission. And if you don't believe it, try me and see who comes out ahead. Any of you dark people, black, brown, yellow, high yellow, low yellow, you ain't white. Get that through your thick Negro skull. End of story. Now get in the ditch. Stop wasting my time. See, that's the way the white supremacists operate when they really get serious. Now, I don't need to be told that. I understand that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I'll be as polite as I can to everybody, regardless of color or non-color, because that's why I said the code requires me to do that. Always be courteous even when the other person isn't, regardless of the color that the other person has in his or her skin. I hope that's understood.
Always be courteous. Okay. All right. Thank you, Blacktop. Let's go to Pennsylvania. Douglas. Pennsylvania. Let me see here. Get this over here. Okay. Douglas in Pennsylvania. You're on with Mr. Fuller. What is your question?
Good morning, Bobby. Good morning, Mr. Fuller.
Yes, sir.
For the record, can you tell the whole world that we only have one government here on planet Earth? And the name of that government?
Oh, will I tell the world what it is?
Yes.
Yeah, the system in capital letters the system of white supremacy is the government for planet Earth in 2024 on this day, October 1st. Now, that's a statement. Now, the next thing a person would want to know is that true? I say it is, so we'll go from there. But that's the answer. Now, where did Neely Fuller get that answer? By looking at it for what it is. That's logical. That's who I see telling everybody what to do, and they're hopping to do it. Go to war, stop the war, eat a banana, eat watermelon, eat cheese, wait for the food truck to show up, and if it doesn't, you'll ask somebody who is next to you, that somebody might be black, and so that person says, well, I'm black just like you, and I'm waiting on the food truck too. So finally, when the food truck arrives, it's somebody white, worldwide, truth be told. And you say, no, I see a whole lot of black people driving them trucks. I mean, hey, check it out and see who ordered those trucks to move out and feed the people all over the world. Doesn't make any difference whether it's a white person or a black person. At the end of that food line, where the food finally comes from and who's in charge of it, it's going to be somebody white. Now, that's called white supremacy in every area of activity. You start talking about economics and getting real serious about it, having big money. You got pictures of slave masters on that money. Everybody wants that money. That's what they're grabbing for. You see some money with some black person's picture on it. Well, it might do, but it's got to be authorized by somebody white. Check out anybody that knows anything about finance, and they'll tell you, hey, you got money, and then you got money. All money ain't the same. White supremacy means I got to okay it, or it ain't money. You can have all the diamonds you can gather up, but if the white supremacist said, you know what, you bought a sack of diamonds in here, a truckload of diamonds, really, with your black self. But it ain't worth nothing until I say that it's worth something, boy. Now get out of here with that truckload until I tell you what the diamond is worth on any given day. Negro, victim of white supremacy, and I'm white. Get out of my office.
Okay.
And go back to that shack that I let you have. Because you ain't going to even have a house over, a roof over your head without me. And I can guarantee you that. I can tear you apart in that roof, too, by pushing a button. And a lot of you learn that the hard way. All I got to do is push a button in your history. Now scramble out of here.
Righty. All right, Douglas from Pennsylvania. Thank you for your for your question there. I'm going to go to the Gmails here, Mr. Fuller. By the way, the number to call in is 516-453-9921. That's the main contact number. Mr. Fuller, I have a question from the Gmail here. I cannot pronounce this name sufficiently, so I'm not going to try it. But anyway, the question is IPB. Mr. Fuller, IPB is a military term that means, quote, initial preparation for battle site, IPV. Number one question. As prisoners of war, is it possible that the United Independent Compensatory Code concept book could be an IPB for non-white people against racism, white supremacy?
Okay, and that IPB book, IPB meaning what?
Initial preparation for battle site.
Yes, if you want to make it so. And it produces a constructive result, it should be used. You use every tool you can get. The Constitution of the United States is an excellent tool. I incorporated it into the code and looking for better ways to do so. I'm not nowhere near being a lawyer, but I'd like to have the qualifications to be a lawyer, because the Constitution of the United States of and for America, which is a concept, has a lot of ingredients in it that shouldn't be, you don't thumb your nose at none of that. I mean, incorporated in whatever it is you're doing that is of constructive value. I mean, don't say anything derogatory about the Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you can say something about the people who wrote it, but it's just like the car that you drive. Check the car out. The car and the person who invented the car, that's two different things. See, black people have to start thinking logically. I don't drive no Ford. Henry Ford didn't like black people. Get in that Ford and go and deliver that food. If that Ford will get you there, Chevrolet, General Motors, well, I got a beef with the people who made it, so I don't want nothing to do with it. Does it work for you when you want it to work? Does a gas stove work for you when you want it to work and when you need it to work? See, that's what I mean by following the logic. Don't follow Neely full of nowhere or anybody else.
Follow the logic.
Follow the logic.
Alrighty.
That's a bedrock solid part of the code. The white supremacists understand that.
Got it.
See, they'll use anything that works.
Yes.
That's all they want to know. Will it work for me?
Okay.
At the time that I want it to work. Now, how can it get better than that? That's anything.
All right, let's continue here. By the way, persons in the 202 and the 646 concept, please, I need your names. Anyway, Mr. Fuller, the person here continues with the Gmail, says this. ISR is a military term that means, quote, intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance. ISR. This ISR was conducted by a civilization from Mars, and then he has in parentheses, speculation, and was broadcast, which he says in parentheses is a fact, by our government as a UAP, which is unidentified aerial phenomenon. Mr. Fuller, do you believe our visitors could be aware of racism, white supremacy?
Who could be aware of it?
The visitors. He
visitors?
mentioned that the visitors are probably, now this is just speculation because he has it down here, UAP, unidentified aerial phenomenon. In other words, they used to call it UFO, but they changed it to they, whoever they are. They changed it to UAP instead of saying UFOs.
Well, first of all, is it true? So I can't, I don't have anything. I'm just hearing about it. So I've been hearing about other people called aliens. They're somewhat similar to people here. And I've been hearing it since the 1940s. I think maybe earlier than that, when I was in elementary school. Which I kind of go way back. So there are people who I've heard people say that unidentified flying objects, that's the first thing I heard about, and that people from other planets visit here all the time. And they only make contact with certain people. Mm-hmm. I don't know who these people are that they make contact with, but that's what I hear. So just like I say, the code tells me to do, well, when you hear that, you listen.
Okay.
But I haven't heard enough or seen enough to know whether it's true or not. Could be all made up, and then it could be true.
Okay.
So I just say, well, I'll see it when I see it.
Okay. Let me go back to what this person said. He said ISR is a military term that means intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance, ISR. This ISR was conducted by a civilization from Mars, and then he says in capital, or rather in parentheses, speculation. Okay. Then he says, and was broadcasted in the year 2022. And he says that is a fact that this was broadcasted by, he identifies this government, or he says our government, and then they classified it as an UAP, unidentified aerial phenomenon. Then he's asked that question, do you believe our visitors could be aware of racism, white supremacy?
They could. I don't know what to believe because I haven't seen any evidence, and then I can make an assessment. First of all, I want to know what they're doing here. And is it going to produce a constructive result? Whomever a visitor is, there's one coming, a visitor, it's logical to me. Why are you here? Just like any visitors from anywhere. That's all I want to know. Are you going to help solve problems, or are you going to make problems? I mean, that's it. That's the whole code right there. This is about problem solving. So when they finally show up, I mean, if it's a 10-man, I mean, after coming down the yellow brick road or whatnot, I just want to know, are you going to help solve problems?
I'm laughing
because I already have plenty of problems, and we need somebody to help solve problems. Now, are you here to solve problems, or are you here to make some more problems that we don't have, and we're going to have now that you have arrived? That's all I want to know. I don't care what they look like or what their history is and all like that. The caller said from another civilization. Well, that's one thing we have never had in recorded history is people that acted like they were civilized, not on this planet.
But he
so
said
that would be something completely new.
Yes. Okay.
Civilized people.
I'm laughing because I think about what the Reverend Jeremiah Wright said that I had people look at when he said, quote, "Hell you talking about?" And then you came back and said, "That's the Wizard of Oz." And the symbolism in that. Hell you talking about? All right. Well, anyway, I sent the email off, so maybe this person will respond to that. Okay. Philip, D.C., get ready. Philip, let me see if I can get you in here. All righty, Philip, in the 202. There you go. All right, Philip, good morning. Question for Mr. Fuller.
Hey, good morning, Mr. Robbie. Good morning, Mr. Fuller. Hey, I wanted to quickly ask if Mr. Fuller, if you can get into the concept of, or speak on the concept of white sacrifices and give an example.
Can you speak up, please, sir?
Example. Oh, yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I wanted to know if Mr. Fuller, if you could give an example of and speak on the topic of white sacrifices.
Oh, white sacrifice, that's what's going on now. Well, one example we're very familiar with is called the Civil War. Now, those are white people killing each other. About what? About how we're going to run this world plantation. That is one outstanding example that people who believe in white supremacy even like to celebrate it as something that is very important to them, to celebrate it. White people killing white people, celebrate it. About what? How we going to best handle these dark people. That's what it was about, according to them. Now, a lot of them are denying it now. Some of them are almost denying that it ever happened. Okay? Which they might get around to doing. They say, oh, that's something made up. Slavery never did exist. They might get around to that if it serves the purpose of the white supremacists. And they'll do anything to keep doing what they're doing. They'll say anything. That's their methodology. I have problems with pronouncing that word, but that's their methods. That's their code. They're very successful at what they do because they don't kid around, except when they have the illusion, put out the illusion that they're kidding around. They're always on their job. They're always doing the business of remaining supreme. And for what? Because it produces things. The system of white supremacy is the most productive system of government that the world has ever seen. So a logical question is, well, why would you try to get rid of something that's working so well? Because it's working well by destroying people. Like white people will kill each other. It's a mob operation. Mobs just kill each other. Over what? Over how we're going to run our operations up in Harlem. That's what. Like in The Godfather. That's why I use that as a reference. It's the same principle as The Godfather.
They call it business.
When the Corleones got together with the Barzanas and all of them, what did they do? They say, look, we're not going to be selling drugs to our people. We're going to confine it to those coloreds up in Harlem, because they're nothing but animals anyway. Well, it turned out that was real. That movie came out in 1972, all right? And sure enough, about I don't know, so it really, the blitz, you might call, of cocaine in the 1970s was everywhere. It hit, and then
still is.
Yes, and see, that's how you can make a fiction movie and make it into reality, because that came true. And because what did the Don say? Don Corleone. He said, I never wanted to get into this drug business. He said, now, the gambling and all like that, we got that. So prostitution, I mean, we got all the black people all into that. Say, we got that. Say, but this drug thing has a way of spreading. And the next thing you know, you'll have it in your own family. And sure enough, if anybody follows the movie trail, that's exactly what happened.
Exactly.
And when you look at life, the way that it really is now, that's exactly what happened. That's why Godfather 1 and 2 is on my movie list on my website.
Okay.
ProduceJustice.com.
ProduceJustice.com.
See, I say that these movies tell stories that come true, all right, or have come true, or on their way to being true. Every last one of them I have on that list. It tells you, it's an easy way. A lot of people don't like to read, including my book or anybody else's book. So these are things, lessons you can learn about the world as it is.
All right.
And about all types of subjects. It may not look like it, and most of the movies will put you to sleep. I'll tell you that now.
Yeah.
But they have very important lessons in them.
All righty. Well, we're going to Casablanca ourselves out of here. That concludes the first hour of the concept, and we thank you for being a participant in the Counter-Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller. If you have to go, hopefully you'll keep in mind the thoughts and expressions that Mr. Fuller has presented before you, and that you look for constructive results in whatever you do. Hopefully we will see you next week. Now, if you are going to be here with us for the second hour, as I'm accustomed to saying, stick and stay. Do not go away. We'll be back in 5 seconds. Welcome back to the second hour of the Counter-Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr. I am the co-host, Mr. Bobby, and we thank you for listening. Contact number 516-453-9921. That's how you get in contact with the show. You can listen, or if you have a question, press that number 1 button and wait until someone contacts you. And then you can give them your name, please. And then when I clue you in, then you can ask your question. First-time callers do the exact same thing except for this. Give them your name and tell them that you are a first-time caller so I can get you on a You Will Be Heard. No question about that. MS, you know who you are. Yeah, you have priority status, so you can call in any time. Mr. Fuller gave that to you. Okay. So that's the number, 516-453-9921. If you elect not to do that, the chat room is available for you. All you have to do is go to blogtalkradio.com. You want to click on where it says programs, And you do that, and the program you want is the Produce Justice Show. You click on that, and you are in there. I think to the right hand is the icon where you click that, and you're in the chat room. And generally, thank you, Swa. I see you got on there. There are some, generally some good conversations that are in there. Very thought-provoking, so you can do that. Lastly, Gmail, yep, you can do that. The numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, MRBOBBY, at gmail.com. May not get to read it today, Mr. Lacey, but I will make an attempt to, because there are others ahead of you, but I will attempt to. If I don't get it on this show, on a next show or a show after this, we'll try to work that in. We try to. We don't want them to be stacked up. And then we'll read that. Okay. Books. ProduceJustice.com. Get the book. Get the book. Get the book. If you don't have the book, y'all be ashamed of yourself. Now, not really, but you should get the book. But why? Because it's a guide to help you. Suggestions. You don't have to do that. But suggestions on how to deal with white supremacy. Particularly when you open up the book and read the first statement that Mr. Fuller has in every book that he's written, and also every show that he opens up with. He tells you that right there, to help you solve the problems. Okay, Mr. Fuller, before we get into the phone call, there was something that one of the callers had mentioned about dinner with somebody. Who was that I think you had
Dinner with Andre.
Oh, Andre. Okay.
My Dinner with Andre.
Okay, got the dinner with Andre.
It's a movie that really, about 10 minutes into it, you say this movie is just about a whole lot of nothing. Two white guys in New York sitting and having a conversation, and the conversation ain't about nothing. I mean, you ain't learning nothing. I mean, it ain't got no plot. It ain't going nowhere and all like that. And then about the last 5 minutes of the movie, just the last scene of one of the people who was involved in the conversation, a guy named Wally in the movie, just what he was saying about the conversation that he had with a guy named Andre. And then he said, I never saw Andre again. And then for some strange reason, the whole movie comes together in just that one sentence. And it's something that can't be explained.
Okay.
But somebody told me I need to have that movie on the list but it only will apply to someone who got a whole lot of time and who is a real deep thinker. I mean, a person who likes to think deep, because the movie seems like it's about nothing and it's about everything at the same time. Now that's the conclusion I came to.
Okay.
And I have a statement in my textbook, the first edition, the original edition. It says, nothing has meaning unless it has meaning, if you get what I mean. Now, that's a quote from me. And people have asked me, why did you say that? Say that nothing has meaning unless it has meaning, if you get what I mean. Say, Fuller, what am I supposed to do with that? I said, it's a thought statement.
Okay.
Nothing has meaning unless it has meaning, if you get what I mean.
Okay.
It's just designed to make you think. That's all.
All right.
In answer to the question, why did I put a statement like that in the textbook that's supposed to be guiding you somewhere? I mean, that ain't guiding me nowhere. I said, is that how you see it? All right. See what I mean?
Okay.
See, it takes some thinking
Yes.
My Dinner with Andre is a movie
My Dinner
like
with
that.
Andre.
Yeah.
All right, Neek. You know what to do with that. Okay, gotcha. All righty. Let's see here. Mario asked you this. Dollar Bill, hang on. We coming to you. And the person in the 334, I'm looking at my screen here. I need to have you identify yourself to the person that's taking that information. All right, Mr. Fuller, here it is. Mario says this. Good morning. Please ask Mr. Fuller the following. Here it is. Should victims of racism voluntarily allow their offspring to interact with offspring of those classified as white outside of school activities, or work? Thank you.
Anytime you can interact with anyone forever in your existence, anywhere on the planet, that produces constructive results, go right into it and don't turn loose. White, non-white, old folks, young folks, etc., etc., etc. Professors, semi-alcoholics. If you can interact with anyone on planet Earth, anywhere that you have an occasion to meet, and this is a rock-solid code, and when you interact with that person and your interactions result in something that's constructive, something that's going to make things better than what it is, do it. That's the criteria. And right now, in these trying times, and the best of times for some people, the worst of times for some people, like it is always, time is neutral. And so you're either doing something constructive or non-constructive. Always follow the path of what you perceive to be something that's going to produce a constructive result, regardless of whom those persons are and whatever those conditions are. If it's something that's going to make something constructive, it's going to solve a problem in the most constructive manner, it's going to help somebody, including yourself, who needs help the most, and you're not going to do harm to anyone, and they're not going to do harm to you. That is what your aim is all of the time. And disengage from people who are non-constructive. I don't care who they are. So-called family members and all like that. Until they want to do something constructive, then you're all in. And that's code. Replace the system of white supremacy with what? Justice. Guarantee that no person is mistreated. That's the aim. And guarantee that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help. And that's all it is. Just those two things in every situation. And don't think about anything outside of that, because you'll get confused.
Get confused. Okay.
And you don't want that more than anything.
Absolutely not. Okay. All righty. We're going to go to Dollar Bill and then the brother from Gumptown. Yeah, down there in Alabama. You know who you are, Teddy Bear. All right, Dollar, ready? With the holler. Here you go. Dollar Bill. There you go, Dollar Bill. Do it. Good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen. You know what? I really want to thank you for letting me speak today. As always, it is a pleasure to hear you and Mr. Bobby, Mr. Fuller, every week. You got that movie you were talking about with Andre. There's some stuff on the internet, Mr. Bobby, that sums it up in quite a couple of sentences. I mean, and you might want to look it up. And it does. It has some type of meaning with, just people living in New York, and them. And what I read is about them living in a dream world versus reality, and something to do with technology and how technology is getting rid of the societal, everyday interaction that they had with each other. So
Dinner with Andre. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I looked that up. My movie, Mr. Full, I wanted to know. It's called They Live. It was by John Carpenter. They Live, and it was like a science fiction film. It was very good, and it just really said that everything that we look at as we're reading has subliminal messages. Everything around us has subliminal, and they live are people who are, we were talking about aliens, are here with us right now. Except you needed to put on these special glasses to see them and to see what the advertisements are really saying and so forth and so on. So I thought that was really quite cool. My question today, Mr. Fuller, your version of justice, and I think it's really hard to gather. To fulfill that your form of justice. But I would like to ask you, who would be in control if you have a system of justice like you speak about? And that's it. I'll stay on the line, Mr. Bobby. Have a great day.
Okay, all right.
The concept itself. That's the answer to that question. You look at every situation, and everybody's in some type of situation, and says, well, I got a guarantee that nobody is mistreated. There's 10 people in this room. Is anybody being mistreated? I mean, that's in a classroom, or in a church, or at a meeting, or in a carpool. There's 4 of us in this car every day. Is anybody in here being mistreated? Say, yeah, I'm being mistreated. You can pick me up first, and pick up the other two people last. Why? Because you got me standing out there where you pick me up, and it's always where when it's raining. I mean, you should be picking me up first. All right? And so you say, and you're driving the car, you say, well, what about the rest of y'all? Y'all with that? I can pick him up first,
Logically, the point being what?
The point being, you want to help the person who needs help the most.
Okay, got it. Okay.
And the person can say, yeah, I need help the most.
Okay.
And another thing, I got a bad leg, and I stand out there and I got to wait. See, these other guys can wait in the house. I got to wait in the rain, because you can't get your car up to where I am. It's a little narrow street and whatnot, and with one way in, you just can't get up there. And he gives the reasons. So you say, oh, okay, I can pick you up. I'll pick up 3 of you all, yeah.
Like you said, those who need the most help.
Those who need the most help.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you just take care of that. Just like the ambulance situations. Yeah. I mean, it's simple. Like Confucius said thousands of years ago.
Okay.
That life is simple. Man makes it complicated.
Got it. Okay. All righty. Dollar, We're gonna hang. We got you hanging on here, Teddy. I want you to hang on too because we got the lawyer coming up, or soon-to-be lawyer, whenever that is. But hang on there. Thank you, Dollar Bill. Nicolette, you ready? You ready? Here we come, Nicolette. What you got for us today, Nicolette?
Good morning. I'm
morning.
still gonna say my hello.
Yeah,
my
go ahead.
BGQ, is that what you call it? I said Mr. Fuller answered it, but I'm still going to say it. So when acts happen, confirming subject matter on your commentary of counter-resolution, is that the manifestation of collective beings? And I said that because this week I talked to a man that seemed like he was almost out of his mind, and he taught me, I don't know yet, but he said that a lot of stuff came out of Philadelphia as far as certain beats of music in the black culture, and other people coined it as their own. So I'm glad that I'm always in action. And that's all I have. If you need me to repeat the question.
Yes, ma'am. And I didn't get no part of the question. It didn't sound like it was a question, but
so it wasn't. So thank you, Mr. Fuller. So now that my excitement is gone.
It wasn't a question?
No, it was a comment. It was a question
comment
at the end, but I said, you had already answered it. It was a comment and then a question on that. But you had already answered it when you said about this. I know I experienced it in action, in real-time action. When you said talk to someone, almost drunkard or somebody, and see what the conversation is about, and how you reference that to the movie Dante, of having a conversation, of walking away from that conversation with a higher thinking order of some type of subject matter that can tie into some type of counter-resolution to the problems that we face. And so I had said, with that being said, is that a form of manifestation of us as beings that's trying to continue to collectively produce counter-resolution to white supremacy racism?
Well, when you're doing anything constructive, that's why I said the two words to keep focused on is constructive results. If a white person comes to you and you examine something that they're talking about and all like that, and if you get confused, you can just say, like you would say to a black person, is this going to produce a constructive result, sir, ma'am? And they say, yes, we'll guarantee you that. It's going to be constructive, meaning nobody's going to be harmed, and everybody is going to be able to solve one, two, or all of their problems. Now, it doesn't get no better than best. So that's where we want to go, particularly these confusing times.
Correct.
We just when you talk to white people and whatnot, all this shouting and screaming at each other and name calling, we need to stop all of that.
Correct.
I mean, and this is when a lot of white people just say that they're tired of the mess, okay? Well, these are white people that you want to talk to, because we should certainly be tired of all kinds of mess. We should, there ain't no varieties of a mess. Get rid of it all. I mean, we don't want nothing to be messy. Everything to be clear. Everything to be constructive. All right, 24/7. In every area of activity. We don't want any area of activity to be full of a whole lot of confusion and destructive behavior. Murder and shooting up the schoolhouse and all of that, that is not constructive. Okay?
It is not. No.
We want everything that is constructive, not destructive.
Exactly. All right, Nicolette. Thank you for your words of wisdom. And I appreciate you very much, Nicolette. All right, thank you. All righty, let's go over. We're going to go to Gumptown. Anybody know anything about that? They're getting ready to find out because Teddy is on. Teddy, let's see if we can get you on here. Teddy, Oh,
good morning.
There
good
you go.
Morning.
There you go.
Good morning, Mr. Bobby. Good morning, Mr. Fuller. As always, top of the day to you. Look.
Yes, sir.
In light of a recent tragedy that was committed last month at one of this country's liberal arts institutions and subsequently reported on, where a non has been now scarred for life by carving the N-word into his chest, physically, mentally, and emotionally, by white students who are his fellow teammates because they know or probably knew that they could. My question is, since the only government on earth is the system of white supremacy, is really trying to replace white supremacy with a system of justice actually futile? In other words, futile meaning incapable of producing any useful result. Pointless. Your thoughts?
What the code says, anything that people put together, people can take apart. That's the law of the universe. If people put it together, and the system of white supremacy is just an evil system, very powerful but very evil, was put together by people. It's just a system of mistreatment. So there is a concept called correct treatment. There's incorrect treatment of anything, of a flower, a plant, an environment. You can mistreat the environment, and the environment will let you know it's being mistreated. Okay? Well, the laws of the universe says if people are mistreating each other, there's a way for people to go about treating people correctly. That's a theory. We've just never experienced it because everybody enjoys mistreatment, mostly on account of the white supremacist influence. That's a form of mistreatment, and you're supposed to enjoy it. And black people being the victims of this form of mistreatment, and solidly so, we enjoy mistreating each other. If we tell the truth, we talk about a whole lot of love, and we do a whole lot of fist bumping and handshaking and rocking and whatnot, and then killing each other right and left.
That's right.
And sometimes putting it on schedule, oh, we're going to have a good time. But deep down, I'm going to have my 9mm, and I'm going to kill somebody. Somebody who? Somebody that looks exactly like me. And that's my goal when I go to this party time. Yeah. That's what we really mean. We're just as sick as we can be. And the white supremacists have made us that way, okay? But we can have a code where we say we don't do stuff like that.
Yes, sir.
We are known not to commit murder. That ain't happening. Nowhere among no people classified as black ever. We don't commit murder. All right.
All righty.
That's out. I mean, that should be a starting point of, I would say, of the whole code, because there's too much of it, and having what you call less body counts. That ain't gonna cut it. Zero. Yeah, zero is, otherwise we shouldn't be pardoning at all, according to the code. As long as we got black people killing each other, it ain't party time, ever.
It's not.
Ever.
No, sir. No, sir.
Ever. Anywhere on the planet. You just have one killing, and the party should stop right there. Say, ain't gonna be no more parties. Ain't gonna be no more parties. We can't have no grinning and hipping around and whatnot and breakdancing and all that? No. And people are killing each other? No. Black people killing each other? I mean, we can't even be an example among each other, an example to ourselves. Everybody's scared of everybody else. And we're talking about party time. That's a bunch of nonsense fool time.
Nonsense.
There ain't no such thing as party time.
Excuse me. Did you have a follow-up, Teddy?
Yeah, but these were members of the same team, of the same swim team, even though you only had one non-white with a bunch of other whites. So by what justice can these white students have in mind to hurt, harm, and endanger one of their own teammates the way that they did? Do they look upon this non-white student as saying, oh, look, this is what y'all do to each other anyway, so it's okay that we do this? There's something I'm not connecting with this. But thank you so very much for picking my call, and I'd like to stay on the line to listen.
Okay.
Well, I like to just footnote this. Nobody is supposed to be treated anywhere on the planet with mistreatment. Nobody on the planet ever should be mistreated for any reason, because there ain't no such thing as a reason to mistreat someone. None. Zero. And everybody who needs constructive help should get it immediately, if not sooner. And that's it. That's the whole code. Otherwise, there's no point in anybody being on the phone talking to anybody like I'm talking to people right now. I mean, unless you have that in mind. End the mistreatment, and everybody who needs help gets it. Gets it now. Not next week. I mean, and let's have another meeting. No, none of that foolishness.
Yeah.
I mean, put the food on the table. All right? And then while you're talking at the table, so-called socialize by talking about ending mistreatment and helping the next person who needs help, starting with whomever's around that table. Don't nobody leave here and, without something resolved about a plan to stop the mistreatment if anybody sitting at this table is being mistreated. And anybody who needs help, hey, when we leave this table, you're going to get the help, because that's why we're here. That's why we're here. We ain't partying just to be partying. We're about problem solving. That's the party.
Okay.
The party is all about problem solving.
Yeah.
And that includes family reunions and everything else.
And all that stuff. Okay, got to leave it there because you're getting ready to take a break. Person in the 917. Come on, give me that name. You're listening to the Counter Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller. I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby. Be delighted. That is, we will be delighted if you would call in, and you can. 516-453-9921. Question or comment, press that number 1 button and wait. And then when you are acknowledged, give your name to that person, and then I can get your name. All righty. So do that. You can also, do this, which is get into the chat room. Here it is, blogtalkradio.com. Click on where it says programs. You want the Produce Justice Show. Click on that and get in the chat room. The icon, I believe, is to the right, at least on my screen it is. Click that, and you are in, and you can join the people that are in that classroom. Whatever happened to Construction Axiom Item and Rita XXX? Come on, where you at? We miss you guys. Call in, yeah. Anyway, you can do that. And lastly, you can Gmail me at the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, MRBOBBY @gmail.com. You can do that. I want you to do that. and I will read it, particularly when we get time. Yeah. Read your Gmail and have Mr. Fuller respond to that. Okay, books. Yes, books. ProduceJustice.com. The book issue. Have you noticed that? Nobody's had any issues. You know why? Because the main man and Mr. Fuller got on them and straightened out the problem. Oh, yeah, it's straight. ProduceJustice.com is where you go get the book. If you don't have the book, I should say you should, but I'm suggesting that you may want to inquire about the book, a manual, so to speak, of suggestions on what to do facing racism, which is white supremacy. Oh, yeah, you need to know that. And even if you leave it on the coffee table for a little while or whatever, you pick it up, and as Mr. Fuller said, it doesn't matter where you begin to read it at, but pick it up and read something. You see something, and it might be something that is pertinent to you, that fits you, or pertains to you, excuse me. And then it may not. But anyway, get the book, ProduceJustice.com, ProduceJustice.com. And all the information is on that site for questions and book or the book, and also past shows. You can do that, ProduceJustice.com. All righty. Thank you, Mr. Walker. We will get to you here. All righty, let's do this here. You know, I don't know if today is movie day or book day, but if you have some movie recommendations, yeah, please do that. As Jane Lance, one of our loyal listeners, been here for a long time. Thank you, Jane. She says this is a VGQ. I would like to recommend a movie that is streaming on Netflix. You got to pay for that bad boy? Just teasing. Just don't answer that. It's called Rebel Ridge. Let me repeat that. Rebel Ridge. The main character reminds me of Mr. Fuller because he is a black male veteran that stays logical throughout the movie under extremely racist situations. Jane Lance. Thank you, Janie. Thank you. Anybody seen that on Netflix? Check that out. Rebel Ridge. If you have a movie you want to recommend, hey, call into the show and see what we can do. Rebel Ridge. Yeah, Netflix. I have it on my Fire Stick, but I haven't activated it yet. But if you have it, Rebel Ridge. Have you heard of that movie, Mr. Fuller, or seen it?
I have not.
Okay.
But if it has anything to do with any characters, white or non-white, and it has anything to do with causing a person to think logically, bring it on. I mean, that's the one thing that's missing among the people of this entire planet, and that is constructive result logic. Everything that we should do, in my way of thinking, and I think that my way of thinking about that is basically leads to what the creator of the universe had in mind, I guess. And I think that latching on to that, just thinking logically, don't follow people. People make mistakes. You don't want to keep making mistakes. Throughout history, everybody is mistake prone. I mean, one mistake right after another.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So don't get into that habit. Follow the logic of the universe. 1 and 1 is 2. Fire will burn. Water is wet. And just follow that logic. That if I do this, the result will be that this person will be better off than the person was before. Keep that in mind. All day long, everything that you do. You don't want to be in any situation where you make the situation worse than it was. want to be no part of that. And there's plenty of it going on before you even step out the door. You're going to be slapped in the face with it. Whole bunch of stuff happening that shouldn't be happening ever.
Okay. Let's see here. Oh, take this under consideration. Kabuki says the Republican and Democratic parties are a different wing of the same bird. Wow. Okay. Question from Gary says this, Mr. Fuller, from the Gmail. Mr. Fuller, why do some non-white people support the system of white supremacy?
All non-white people support the system of white supremacy because white supremacy is the government of the entire world. And the evidence shows it. I support it. Prisoner of war. If you're in a prison, you're supporting the prison system. That's one way of looking at it. Victim of white supremacy, prisoner of war. We're prisoners if you're non-white. And who are the prison masters? Those white people, not all, but those white people who invented and thrived in a system of government called the system of white supremacy. It's not the Confederate government. It's not certainly not the American government. That's another thing. Stop accusing Americans of being racist. That's impossible. And the evidence does not show that. Why? Because Americans do not exist, folks. I keep saying that, and people will get right on this show and say, America did this and America did that. It's just a habit. I mean, a groggy habit. And it's not true, because can't something that doesn't exist do any harm to anybody. And they say, well, America does exist. So where's the evidence? Where is the evidence that an American ever did anything? Because there are no such people. Never has been. There are people who are called Americans, but that's not who they are.
Right. I heard you
white
address
people,
that.
non-white people, or white supremacists.
Right.
That's the government. And don't talk about the government and you say the government is Americans. It couldn't be. What is an American? A person that practices justice.
Yeah, exactly.
And nobody practices justice. So don't accuse an American of ever doing anything, because they don't exist now and never have. People who fit the description of Americans, or for that matter, according to the evidence and according to logic, Africans or Asians either. Because all three of them are people who practice justice, and there's no record of anybody ever practicing justice. What is justice? Guaranteeing that nobody's mistreated, number one. Number two, guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help.
That's true. I heard you mention that.
That doesn't exist anywhere on the planet.
This past week, not this past week, but Thursday on the Carl Nelson show, you said the exact same thing. And you've been saying that for years. Yes.
And people have a deaf ear to it. I understand it. It's just a habit.
Yeah.
They'll say, this country did this. And America's always ain't never done right by black people. Wait a minute. What is an American? Slow down. Slow down. Don't just keep throwing words around like they don't mean nothing. Every word has a meaning.
Has a meaning, exactly.
My goodness.
All righty. Let's go to the phone line, and we got Mr. Walker. Mr. Walker, get ready in New York. Okay, wait a minute. Let's see if I can do that. Okay, wait a minute. There we go, Mr. Walker. You on. Go ahead. Yeah, Mr. Walker, you're there. Okay. Oh, wow. Okay. Now he's gone. Hope that's not the usual suspects in play, but every time we have this show, they seem to rear their head. Yeah. Okay, anybody else with any movies, let us know. I'm still trying to get Casablanca. I've seen a little bit of Casablanca, but that was one of the movies that was on your list, Casablanca. And Mr. Fuller, you had mentioned that all movies may not necessarily, you may not get something out of it. Is that correct, or something to that effect?
Big time. And in the same movie, you can get a whole lot of it, out of it, simply because where your mindset is when you first looked at the movie. See, and look for the lessons in courage, lessons in a person being confused, lessons in what you call talk about character, like in the movie Officer and a Gentleman.
Officer and a Gentleman, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also a movie called The Hustler. They talk about Jackie Gleason, the pool shooting movie.
Yeah.
See, and there's a character in it, and Joyce C. Scott, and he says, Eddie, Minnesota Fats got character, which is something you don't have. And that's why you fail even when you think that you are getting ahead. See? But Minnesota Fats, he understands who he is.
Yeah.
And you don't understand much of anything. Minnesota Fats got character. He's, that, and so you ask the question, what is character? And an officer of a gentleman, Sergeant Foley, kept saying that to the cadet who was in the Marines and whatnot. Said, you know what's wrong with you? You don't have any character. Say, but you take the other kids in here and you look at them like they're nothing, but some of them have character, and that's something you know nothing about. You don't even understand the concept of character. And so when I first heard that discussed was in the movie The Hustler, all right? And and you say, well, what is character? Said, well, it's kind of hard to describe, but you know it when you see it. And I had that experience. I mean, it's something, it's hard to describe. Say, what do you mean when you say that person has character? And you say, well, what is character? Well, it's like that my dinner with Andre. I mean, you know it when you see it. It's something that's there, but you don't have words for it. I've met people who instantly, I could feel it. I could feel it. I say, this person has, if you want to put a word to it, it's character. And you say, well, the person don't have a whole lot of money, or they don't have this, and they don't. Yeah, but the person got character.
Got character.
And a lot of people can pick that up. I know I can.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've been in the presence of people that, it didn't take me long, like about 3 or 4 minutes of just being in their presence.
That you talk about when you were in the service, he had character? Did he have character?
Oh, man, did he have he had a ton of it. I mean, you know, he had it. He had it. I mean, he had flaws, but he still had character, like Minnesota Fats. He was a chain smoker.
Yeah.
That's a flaw, all right? But he had character.
I know I talk about military people a lot. I personally like it. My dad was a military man, and I have great respect for those men and women who served in the military. And when I hear you speak about that sergeant, it reminds me of my father. He didn't play, but he was right on. He spoke logically, and then when I hear you speak of this sergeant, when he would
See, and that's a feature of a person that has character, and that is they're logical.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's as close as you can get. You know, they have, they know what's to value and what not to value.
Yeah,
what
when
is
you related
valuable.
that story about when he talked about work, I think you had made something about work, and he said, Fuller, look at that person out there. That's work, or whatever the example you gave.
And he let us know it ain't nothing wrong with work. So you guys always talking about, you know, he said, you learn something when you work. So you ever think about that? Say you're working, you might be working for somebody else and all like that, but at the same time, you are learning. Never turn down an opportunity to learn.
Yes.
You know,
yeah.
and there's a lot of other things that I picked up.
I think about General, I think he's retired now, Russell Honore, Louisiana. To me, he was the main person that took care of the stuff that happened down with Hurricane Katrina, and he got all the military people together and got those people, like you said, those that needed the most help. That's what he did. He got those people, you know, together, food, clothing, whatever they needed out of that mess. And I was thinking about what's going on in the Carolinas and Georgia and over there.
Yes.
They need a point man. And I thought about General Honore. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Fuller.
Well, they need to just follow logic.
Yeah.
And when you're in the process of helping people, you're learning how to get at it better and better. And you become a what? Problem solver.
Yeah.
Rather than a problem maker, which is what black people have a reputation for doing. Okay. Here come the problem makers. You know, black people, they are highly skilled at making problems, but can't solve nothing.
Can't solve nothing.
You know, that's our reputation. But we can change that today. Just make up our minds that we're not going to take part in nothing that's non-constructive. That's the whole code. Don't take part in nothing voluntarily that's not about problem solving.
Not about problem solving. Okay, let me get a question here. Gmail here. It's coming from Nanziel. He says this. Please ask Mr. Fuller, has he said that for something to be codified, it has to work each and every time? And if it does not work, even once, is no longer code? Well, Sonia Massey killed recently by a race soldier and several other black people throughout history who did not fuss, fight, or flee, were still executed. Would Mr. Fuller, under those situations, still apply the word code to this particular approach, or should it be changed to attempted code?
No, that's code. See, code is just you do the best thing you can. under the circumstances where you are.
But he said they were killed anyway.
Yes, you're in a prison. See, always look at what you're into. In a prison, like I got that movie list, Shawshank Redemption, Byron Hadley would just kill you because he feels like killing you. Okay? But he's in position to do that. He said, well, I'm not doing nothing, so I'm going to kill you anyway. But you're a prisoner of war. Anybody who was in a death camp in any prison or any concentration camp, the guard just decides, and they did a whole lot of it in what they call Big Deuce, World War II.
Okay.
I mean, you're a prisoner of war, and the person, whomever standing there with a gun, and they got the authority being the gun, sometimes just for target practice. You'd be out there working yourself to death in a wheat field or in a rice paddy because you're a prisoner of war. And that guard sitting up there smoking a cigarette or reading a comic book or whatever just decides to take a break and gets up and stretches and yawns and decides to pick up his rifle, and you're out there digging into the rice field every day, can barely keep up, and just decides, boom, from that tower, and you're dead, face down in a rice paddy. And that person next to you doing the same type of work as a prisoner of war just picks up the pace of that work. Unless the guard who is up in that tower, who just put another bullet in that chamber, lets you know, I'm going to do more work. You're going to have more rice out of me because I just got my incentive from that message you just sent to that person that I was talking to next to me, and you killed them just because you could.
Mm.
And that's going on right now somewhere all over the world.
Yes.
All right? So you don't stop working and say, I ain't doing no work no more because he just killed that last person. No, stick to what Andy Dufresne did in prison, in that movie.
In prison. Okay.
Yeah. He saw what was happening. He saw how Byron Hadley would beat someone to death on his first day in the prison. And he didn't give Byron Hadley no back talk. Mm-hmm. Like that prisoner gave some back talk. Mm-hmm. And that proved to be fatal. See, so we've got a lot of black people. I know my rights. Start with that back talk. No, wait a minute. You're a prisoner of war. You ain't got no rights. Shut up.
Gotta leave it there.
Yeah, well, he shot me anyway. Yeah, shut up. Because why? Because that's the only thing you can do. That's why.
All right. I'm going to take the cue right there, and we're going to shut this baby down for this week. Thank you, Mr. Fuller. Thank you, all the callers. Thank you, Jane. Nick. Thank you, Teddy. Thank you, everybody that called in and wrote in.
ProduceJustice.com.
ProduceJustice.com. Don't forget, that's where you get the book at. That's where you get the book at and all that. Thank you for all the technical people that help us sound the way that we sound. It's not us, it's them. And forgive me again for all the mistakes that I made. And I made some mistakes today, but I try to do better. Good, better, best. Never let it rest till your good is gooder and your best is best. Mr. Fuller, the last word goes to you. That's the last word. ProduceJustice.com. All righty. Thank you, everybody. We hope to see you next week. Have a good week.
When your celebration of life is prepaid in advance, it becomes a gift from you to your family later, because no one should have to plan for a loss while they're experiencing one. Paying in advance protects your loved ones and gives you the peace of mind you deserve. Let us help you plan every detail with professionalism and compassion. We're your local Dignity Memorial provider. Find us at dignitymemorial.ca